Hello and welcome to the market update for Monday, July 14th. I am Ricky Walters.
He's the mortgage wise guy, wise guy.
So the question is, when is the Fed going to start cutting rates? Let's get into this. First of all, the Fed has a dual mandate. We know if you've listened to me before, you know their dual mandate is price stability. They want to get inflation down to 2.0% on core personal consumption expenditures. And secondly, they want to keep us out of a recession by maximum employment or to keep us from having too many job losses. Okay. So that's their mandate. So let's see how they're doing. If we compare when they did cut rates in the fall in September, November, and December, you can see at the current unemployment rate, we're basically the same. We're maybe 1/10 lower than a couple of those rate cuts, but the same as another one. We'll come back to the unemployment in a minute. But PCE, personal consumption expenditures, were actually lower than two of the three rate cuts that they had. Personal consumption expenditures on the core, same or lower than all three. CPI, the other inflation report, consumer price index, same or lower than all three of the rate cuts. And of course, if we look at CPI core, also lower by a lot than all three of the rate cuts in the fall. So that's very notable. So what is going on here? Well, first of all, we didn't see mortgage rates follow when the Fed cut rates. These three step downs were the three rate cuts in the fall, but mortgage rates actually went up and trended higher. We have to ask, why did that happen? Well, primarily because these three job reports in September, November, and December were much higher than the market anticipated. But those numbers were revised lower. And in addition, the quarterly census of employment and wages, which also is put out by the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, they give us this revision 6 to 12 months later, and we had 818,000 fewer jobs than what was initially reported in the second half of last year. Okay. And then on top of that, in the spring, we saw January, February, we had these two spikes in inflation, and that hurt our chances with lower rates because the bond market sold off. Inflation is the biggest enemy of the fixed rate of return of mortgage-backed securities and government treasuries. So then we have to look at the relationship between mortgage rates, the federal funds rate, and the 10-year treasury yield, the benchmark. And you can see here at the end that we saw mortgage rates tick up as well while the federal funds rate was coming down. So the question is, getting back to when is the Fed going to cut rates? Well, we first have to know where they're looking. And are they looking forward? Powell says that they are, and we know from 2 weeks ago he said had the Fed would have cut rates if the tariffs had not gone into effect because they're concerned about the effect of tariffs on inflation. So they essentially are looking forward in that regard. But when you look at the job market, they're really looking backwards and are data dependent. And all the other inflation reports, they're looking backward, are showing good progress on inflation. What do I mean by that? Well, we know that ADP showed only 56,000 jobs total over the last 3 months combined, showing significant declines in job creation, much more reliable report on unemployment, showing economic slowdown, as well as when you lose a job, it's much harder to get a new job because these continuing claims are trending higher. You can see it's definitely broken out from the trend that it's been on. So we have three Fed governors, Goolsbee, Waller, and Bowman, all saying they think that we should cut rates here at the end of July when they meet, but Powell saying probably we're not going to do that until September at the earliest. So sorry, I don't have better news on this front. There will be two inflation reports coming out this week, which I will talk about in next week's update on Monday. CPI and PPI are coming out this week. But have a great week. It is going to happen. It is going to come, and still a great time to buy a home in the market.
He's the
Walter,
mortgage wise guy, wise
have
guy.
a great week.